So let's talk about federal. This is kind of the shocker, and this is the depressing part, but this is part of what I'm here for, is to pick up your night. Loans. That's pretty much it. If you're looking for any assistance from the federal government to help you pay for grad school, it's predominantly through the federal student loan program, sometimes some work study, which is an employment-based program. So what I did was threw some numbers up here, and let me just explain to you a little bit so you kind of understand where we're coming from and what you're getting into before you jump in with both feet here. There's a limit on how much loan money you can get. Now, these limits apply to everyone other than... Do we have any medical school people in here? I don't think so, right? Maybe? Okay. When you're getting into medical school, you've got a few different limits involved. So this is your general kind of non-real special medical field type of loan limits. Regardless of where you go to school, whether you're going to JMU, whether you're going to Harvard Law, whether you're going wherever the case may be, federally, the most student loan money you can get in a year is $20,500. And that's it. Now, you have to figure out what a year is at your school. Sometimes a year is just fall and spring semester, if they don't go in summer. Sometimes a year is summer, fall, and spring combined. Sometimes a year is fall, spring, and summer combined, depending on where the school puts summer. So once you know how your calendar flows, you'll know $20,500, I got to stretch it out over 2 terms or 3 terms. Or quarters, or trimesters, or however the school is functioning. Does that make sense? Okay. The most you can get over your lifetime is $138,500. A lot of money. That cap includes anything you're bringing with you from undergrad. That's your lifetime loan limit. Undergraduate and graduate combined. Make sense? All right. Cool. Interest rate. Interest rate is set by Congress. So unless Congress changes the rules, the interest rate on all graduate student unsubsidized loans is 6.8% fixed. It's never going up, it's never going down. It's always 6.8. If Congress changes the rules, we'll get a new rate. But it's been 6.8 for a while. You have an option, and some of you may have loans right now. You have an option on unsubsidized federal loans to pay the interest while you're going through school. So if you take out $20,500, you get interest statements. If you pay your interest, when you graduate, your loan is still $20,500. Then you start paying loan and interest like a car loan or a house loan or anything. But you've kept your balance from getting bigger. If you don't pay your interest while you're in school, then they do what's called capitalize, which means they take your interest, add it on top of the $20,500. Now when you get out, you owe $20,500 plus whatever interest has accrued, and then they charge you interest again. Right? It's a lovely system. But that's the way it works. Don't shoot the messenger. So if you can pay the interest, pay the interest. That's what you want to do. Standard repayment is 10 years. So what this means is when you go into repayment for your loans, which is 6 months after you stop being enrolled at least half time, hopefully that's graduation, they're going to give you 10 years to pay this off. Now, in some circumstances, you can apply for longer repayment periods. But what happens to the cost of your loan if you take more than 10 years to pay it off? What happens? Say that louder. It goes up. Why does it go up? Interest. The longer you take to pay it off, the more interest you're going to pay. The shorter time you pay it off, the less you're going to pay. There's no prepayment penalty. You pay these things off as fast as you absolutely want to. So I gave you kind of a scenario here. If you take, most graduate programs are a couple of years, so just using that as a benchmark. If you take 2 years, you take your full loan eligibility, you got $41,000 you owe when you walk out the door. For 10 years, you're coughing up about $470 a month. About $500 a month is what you're paying back on your loans. By the time you're done, it'll cost you almost $16,000 in interest over 10 years. That's a tough pill to swallow for a lot of people. Be very careful when you get into this. I spoke to a student not too long ago who is an education major. She was almost $100,000 in debt. And she's going to be an elementary school teacher. That's a very scary proposition. She's just changed the course of her life, and not for the better. So be very cautious before you jump into these. I'm going to show you a couple other options here in a minute. Now, some of you may have loans now, and notice I haven't mentioned this thing called a subsidized loan. Some of you may have subsidized loans. The reason I haven't mentioned it is because beginning in July, Congress literally just in August, passed a new law that eliminated all subsidized loans for graduate students, which means the only loan you guys can get starting in July is an unsubsidized loan. So you're not getting anything that's really interest-friendly while you're in school anymore. Done away with. Yes, sir?
For the teacher, I heard some schools, if you work there for a few years,
If you work at some schools for a couple years, you're talking about working at college?
I worked for a school for a couple years.
Like a high school or a college school? Like a high school? Yeah, there are some programs where if you take out loans and you work in certain types of schools, they're usually low-income schools in certain types of fields, where if you work there for a certain period of time, then they'll